welcome back to the Marine Corps Movie Minute, where we discuss movies of the Marine Corps 1 minute at a time. I am Brian.
I'm Jack.
And today we've reached minute 112. And 112 begins with Recon falling back into a building, and it ends on a somber note. A little sad moment.
Yeah,
Well, first off, how's it going, man?
it is going very well. How about yourself?
Not too bad. Better than how Recon's doing in this minute.
Yeah, I know, man. They kind of ended up in a little bit of a pickle.
Yeah, through a series of poor decisions. Really just one. Well, two, if you think about it. Previously, when that armor showed up, Gunny told everybody to get down, and they didn't. Ring led them up the hill to that. I don't even know what kind of building it is. I don't think we ever did. We speculate it was like a lighthouse or something.
Yeah, man. I thought it was a church for a long time, and you pointed out that there was it looked like a lighthouse on top, and I actually think you're right because I think they're off a cliff, not far from the beach or from a beach.
Correct.
I think it's like an old abandoned lighthouse made out of like concrete or stucco or something.
Yeah, yeah. It's all like there's no windows. They're all boarded up planks and stuff.
I wonder if this is because of all the hurricanes that they have. Well, quote unquote, like this is actually filmed in Puerto Rico, so I wonder if this is like like an industrial size or kind of put together building that won't blow over during a big storm.
Right. Yeah. Right. I mean, granted, Grenada's going to be dealing with that crap too. Hurricanes.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, I mean, geography class.
Right. But yeah, this is Puerto Rico, so it's funny because I've been referencing this on and off, since I discovered it. This website that has the closed captioning for the movie.
Mm-hmm.
It does not have the line that Lieutenant Ring says at the very beginning of this minute, which is "Get into the building," or it's something to that effect. It's like "into the building" or something like that. So it's not listed. It's he's clear as day says it though.
Huh. I wonder if it's just because it's like supposed to be like a background track that they don't. I don't know.
You're not really missing anything.
No,
if you don't hear it, because it's obvious they're getting into. And you already get the gist of it by it was Ring that led them up there instead of getting down like Gunny told them to, and so they're kind of pinned down by this armor now.
Yep, I think that's more from lack of experience than it is from shit. Your first instinct is to run into if you're getting shot at to find cover, and what's more cover than a building?
Yeah.
Until you realize that you get surrounded, and any way you try to come out, you're gonna get shot at.
Right. Yeah. Because well, first off, that armor is blasting right through.
Yeah, it's making new windows and doors.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, because that's it's holes in the concrete. That wood isn't standing a chance next some of those those explosions. So and of course then there's the supporting infantry that are with them, and they all got machine guns and firing at Recon.
Yep, all they gotta do is just run in, throw grenades in there, and they're fucked.
Yeah, well, that's exactly it. Exactly. All they have to do is then they clear the room, and and they're done.
Yeah.
Gunny as much calls Ring out on it in the middle of this now.
Yeah, I never, as many times I've seen this movie, it never dawned on me what he said. Again, it's the magic of headphones, and I actually got to hear everything, and I was like, oh no.
Before we get to the line, Ring's response to Gunny is, "Jesus, Gunny."
Mm-hmm.
And I always, you always hear that line watching it. And I just always assumed, this is my assumption, was that Jesus Gunny was like, "Jesus Gunny, like, what do we do?" Or "Jesus Gunny, we're fucked," that type of thing. Not what he actually means, so it's great. So before Gunny gets there, everybody on Lieutenant Ring's orders gets into the building. We get a shot of Swede barely fitting through the door.
No, Jesus, he's a big man.
He's a massive man.
Like Kool-Aid man. Oh yeah, he fucking busts in.
Yeah, I was saying we'll send him out against the armor. And
Hulk smash.
Right after that is his little buddy Keone's. They show a shot of him getting in too.
Yeah,
I'm telling you, they're always showing these guys
together.
Even if they're not directly together, it was like a shot of him and then a shot of Keone's. I'm like, there's something to it. I think I'm onto something, and I'm going with it.
Master Blaster.
Yeah.
Exactly. Run out of town.
So but he gets in too, and then you see Stitch Jones. He's like praying and spraying, and like he just hauls ass and makes a break for it because
Yeah.
I mean he almost gets taken out by the tank shell basically.
Uh-huh.
Of course, they're also shooting the M16 or the not the M16s. He's shooting his M16. They're shooting the machine guns back at him. He's
Uh,
he's dodging bullets and he barely gets in.
you know what though is cool is that, all the bluster about, hiding and doing all that other stuff. Jones being the last one in and kind of bringing up the rear and kind of providing rear guard for him as they get in the building. It's subtle, but to me, that kind of speaks more of like how he's kind of how Jones is growing into being a better Marine,
Oh
a more
yeah,
professional fighter.
and not only that, I mean he is a corporal, and we've
Mhm.
seen no sergeants in this.
Yeah.
We got Collins and we got Jones, and they're the
Yep.
two corporals.
Yep.
They are the NCOs of this outfit, and Jones definitely has been a de facto leader when it came to shenanigans.
Yeah.
As they've kind of gone through this, he's stepping up. He's doing his job. He's a stand up guy, and that's. I'm glad you pointed it out because I think I had mentioned previously when he was like, "Hey, stay safe, brothers." Like that was his way of trying to like, hey, just it was still his Stitch Jones way,
Yeah.
but he's always trying to reassure everybody, kind of just take care of them. And then like you said, this is great. That's a great point where he's the last in.
Yep.
Aside from Gunny, because Gunny, as you recall, he took cover in the grass and got down like what he wanted everybody else to do.
Yeah.
The only reason he came up there was to help them figure a way out.
Yeah.
When Jones gets in, just right after Jones gets in, that's a big blast, takes out one of the windows, and there's a couple Marines just standing right there, and they get hit and they
Mhm.
go
Yeah.
down.
Yeah. Shrapnel.
Yeah, we can't really
Boy
see
shrapnel.
who it was though. It's not really clear, at least not to
No.
me.
No, man. It's yeah. Well, on top of it looks like for some reason some of them have cami paint back on.
Well, it's all soot from all the smoke and debris that's going on now.
Yeah, but
We'll
it's
give them
also
that.
dark. It's in shadow, and they it's not like there's a build difference. It's not like you can tell like, well Jones isn't wearing his boonie cover, so you can tell by, the
Yeah.
shape of his head and his hair. But then like a lot of the other ones, man, you really can't tell because they're all kind of built the same. They're all wearing their boonies.
Are
And
they
if
all
it's
built the same?
yeah,
All of them?
well no, except for the Swede.
Yeah. Okay, so well, that being said, because we know the minute and I know
Mhm,
the next minute as well,
mhm.
I'm gonna speculate. I know who one of them is without being able to really see physically who it is, like without confirmation of their face.
Uh,
There's one guy standing up by the window, he goes down.
yep.
I think that's profile actually.
I think you're right because that's the event that yep.
Right, exactly. That's how this is what we're getting to with as the minute ends. There's another guy that kind of rolls over and hits the ground because he was kneeling. Now, if I recall, Collins was looking out a door or a window.
Door.
Yeah, that's right. He had the door. Sweet had the M60 firing back,
Mhm.
but he was standing up. He wasn't kneeling. Now, based on another event, it makes me think. Like I was like, well, maybe this is Swede, but whoever this person is has an M16, not the M60. He
Yep.
also, like I said, when we saw Swede, he was standing. This guy was kneeling. I can't tell, and it's not. It doesn't have the M203 grenade launcher on the bottom of it, so it's not Collins.
Correct. Yep.
By process of elimination, it's either Forgetti or what's his name, Quiones. Oh, actually, where the hell's Aponte?
Yeah, and I was thinking it could have been a Ponte too, but you don't ever really see him, so I wonder if he's in another area fighting back because it's not like he's picking himself up.
Maybe he went over the hill on.
Again?
Yeah, he's like, "F this, I got another job."
Yeah, I got to be at work at 5.
Yeah, Gunny, I got a shift.
Yeah.
But he seems too tall to be Keone's. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say it's Forgetti. Well, after that blast happens, Gunny runs in, right? Collins actually mans the door right afterwards. So it wasn't Collins. There's a couple different bodies on the ground. I'm actually thinking it's Forgetti because at one point Forgetti does get into this scene and he's close by to profile basically.
Yeah, I think you're right. I actually I think you are right, sir. I was thinking it could have been Ring because Ring and Profile have been together for through most of this stuff because I guess just proximity to the radio. But Ring is wearing his boonie, and I think the when the blast happens, the other Marine wasn't wearing it. And I mean, I think you're right. I think it's probably Forgetti.
because when we see Forgetti, his boonie cover is hanging, is hanging off of the back of his neck there.
Yep.
So it is off, and he kind of sits up. So I think just through a process of elimination, I think he was one of the ones that got hit too. The only difference is he came out of it relatively unscratched or unscathed.
Yeah.
Profile, not
Provo
so
took the
much.
front. Yeah.
Yeah. So here, so Gunny busts in right after that blast. We got at least 2, 3 Marines just laying on the ground, right? We don't know who's alive, who's dead, if who's injured, who's not. We just know that these guys are pinned down, and a couple of them just got basically more or less taken out of action from that
Mm,
blast.
yeah.
So Gunny busts in. First thing he says is he immediately just starts shitting on Ring.
Yeah.
Bad mistake coming in here like this. Lieutenant Ring says, I apologize. It's my fault, Gunny. It's my fault, Gunny. I led them up here. And Clint Eastwood says, apologize to their mothers.
Yeah. Jesus.
That's where Ring is like, Jesus, Gunny.
Yeah.
He's like, like, I mean, well, because, if for all we know, those guys are dead.
Yeah, man. It's like those consequences. The consequences in combat aren't minor. They're not a slap on the hand.
Clint Eastwood or Gunny is not pulling any punches or he's not
No.
sugarcoating anything.
No,
He's
he's
like,
not.
"You made a mistake. Don't apologize to me. Apologize. You're gonna have to." And he's, but of course, Ring's like, "Great bedside manner. Thanks a lot."
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Yeah. It's a pretty scathing rebuke.
Gunny gets right into action, trying to coordinate, basically defense.
Yeah.
And he says, "Lay some steel on those targets there." Now it's funny because this is another. So Ring actually, after hesitating a minute, he calls for Collins and Aponte. He basically points in the direction where he wants them. Now again, this is I don't know why what the difference is here, but in the closed captioning, he only calls for Aponte.
Huh.
It doesn't say Collins, but clearly when you're watching, he says Collins Aponte, and he points to the side of the building that he wants some defense on.
Yeah.
So he says Gunny says radio battalion for air support, and that's where we see Stitch Jones. He basically grabs Profile's radio.
Yeah. Holds it up. Just the radio.
And I'm wondering too it must be clearly it's damaged the way he's holding it too. And he's like,
Yeah.
Gunny, man, I think Profile's dead. That's when Gunny comes over to look. That's when Forgetti pops up, and that's why I think it's him. And they roll Profile over, and he's not moving. He's not. He's Gunny does look concerned. They have a look on Clint Eastwood's face where he's just trying to kind of assess the situation, but you could kind of tell it's grim.
Yeah.
It's a brief look, but he's like,
damn it.
Yeah, and then the minute literally ends with like pauses on Forgetti's either concerned or confused look. Not really. I mean, Ring is basically holding Profile's hand too.
Yeah.
Because to him it's we'll find this out as this goes on, but there's guilt there for for his
Mistake.
yeah, mistake. Exactly. I would say part in this, but I would say his mistake.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't know for sure because they haven't really checked him, but he doesn't look too good.
No. No.
And and of course, and now they have no radio man. A few of them are, they're definitely now they got to deal with loss or at least an injured comrade. I'll actually bring this up here. I forgot somebody had mentioned this somewhere. I don't know where I saw this, so I am unfortunately I can't give credit to whoever pointed this out, but there's no medic, there's no corpsman with these guys.
Yeah, usually they stick a corpsman in those kind of units, and even they have them in like regular infantry units. I don't know why. Maybe they've got somebody that's got some medical training that's not a corpsman, but yeah, it seems a little remiss that they would have a combat unit without a corpsman or two available.
I mean, my guess is just an oversight. You got your main actors. They didn't have anybody else extra as a background guy. They didn't bother to have a main actor portray a corpsman. I think we know from Pete Koch that one of the guys from First Platoon, the guy that suplexed him in the pit, was a real life corpsman. So we know there was a corpsman attached to these units. But as we've mentioned several times, none of those background Marines that were at Pendleton seemed to be in Puerto Rico with them.
Yeah,
so,
no. Yeah.
so, so when they deployed, it's like only half the unit was actually deployable. Everybody else is either on light duty or is in non-deployable status, or I don't know. Maybe
Or they're maybe just in a different AO. Maybe they're a different area of operation.
yeah. I'm guessing they're with Chuzu and Powers setting up,
Yeah.
the beachfront or so.
Yeah.
And I think I never got an answer to this. I wish if anybody is listening and has any idea, there was that dude that we saw early on when Gunny was like making them strip off their shirts and all that, and
Mhm.
he had a stencil and I think a name on his PT shorts, and nobody else did.
Yeah, I think that was Navy.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Like, I think it's the only thing I can think of is that what makes him stand out from everybody else is that he was a corpsman.
Yeah.
But I've never had any confirmation. I actually asked a buddy of mine who was a Marine, and I believe he actually attempted to be a SEAL as well. I asked him if he knew, and he was not familiar with it. So
Hmm.
unfortunately, I couldn't get the confirmation I was hoping. I actually put it out into a couple veterans groups too, and nobody responded. So I'm like, oh, come on.
Come on, please.
Well, because unfortunately, I didn't do veterans groups. I did Marine groups, and they were like, yeah, we don't care. So they're like, yeah, go ask the Navy groups.
It goes to them.
I was like, yeah, but they were with you guys.
Yeah. So I wonder if maybe there was a change at some point. Maybe, I mean,
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm sure the problem is I'm asking people probably who this was before their time. So
yeah,
if this
they
was a
don't know.
different, yeah, I mean, they're like, oh, I never seen that before. But that's, uniforms change so frequently.
Yeah.
And of course, if it was the Navy, maybe you're not as familiar with, the Navy's uniform standards of 1983.
Yeah.
So yeah. But if anybody happens to know and is listening, it could let us know. Drop us a line in the quarter deck.
Yeah.
I'm curious. But yeah, I mean that's really it. I mean, these guys don't have a corpsman. They have they have a bunch of injured guys, and profile doesn't look too good. And it's all Lieutenant Ring's fault.
The boot lieutenant got you all killed.
Right? So do
No, I
you
think his instincts were good, but I think his judgment was poor. And I mean, anybody who's getting shot at's going to go and nice safe building until you
yeah.
realize that. Yeah, that's a bad way.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's something that it seems like it's an honest mistake. It's not even incompetence, it's inexperience. It's
Yeah,
on his part.
yeah, yeah. It's like the horror movies when it's like, oh, it's a big house. We're just going to run upstairs.
Right. Yeah,
It's
basically.
safe.
Yeah.
It's safe. I was like, well, no, it's further from your exit, asshole.
Right. And they're just trying to get away is
Yeah.
really the it. And like you said, get some cover. But actually, I noticed too. Actually, right when they mentioned it, when Stitch Jones says, I think Profile's dead. Some debris actually lands on Clint Eastwood on Gunny.
Uh,
A bunch of rocks come fly, blasting off from somewhere and land on his head and neck.
yep.
So
Getting peppered.
yeah, basically. So they're still taking fire and shit's going all around them while they're dealing with their fallen comrade. So,
Yeah.
but as
Oh,
far as this minute, do you have anything else?
no, nothing constructive. I think we dissected it pretty good. There's not much left.
Yeah. Well, I want to get to the next minute and find out if I wonder if Profile's okay.
Hmm.
Oh, you know what? Sorry, I did have one last thing. I not here's as good as place as any.
Hmm.
Since we're dealing with some wounded and or KIAs,
Hmm.
actually, I looked up a stat during the invasion of Grenada in Operation Urgent Fury. 19 U.S. Troops were killed, 116 were wounded.
Really?
Yeah, but that being said, some of it was from friendly fire and a helicopter accident.
Yeah.
There was
Wow.
they did have some issues with this invasion. It was like the first test of the all volunteer armed forces,
Mm.
because prior to that,
It was all
Vietnam was
draft.
just draft. So
Yeah.
there was that, and then this actually invasion. One of the positives to come out of this, besides liberating Grenada.
Yeah.
In fact, I read a thing that Grenada has their own version of Thanksgiving to celebrate the U.S. Liberating them. Or
Really?
yeah,
Huh.
yeah, pretty
That's pretty cool.
yeah, that's pretty cool. So, anyways, Yeah, because they restored elections and all that good stuff. But anyways, they one of the things they were saying is there was like Army helicopters couldn't land on Navy ships to refuel. Like
Why?
they just weren't coordinated enough. They just were. I mean, look at. I mean, when you get anything this large and this bureaucratic and all that, they just have their own little fiefdoms, and for whatever
Yeah.
reason, they weren't able to coordinate. That all changed. I mean, because of this, I read somewhere, and I think there was
Oh, is
actually
that
a
where all the joint op stuff was all born out of?
yeah, I guess yeah, because it was talking about actually Dick Cheney of all people. He was a congressman at the time, and he was visiting the island, and he said, "Well, clearly a new system was needed." Because and I'll get into that. I'm actually gonna save that later, but yeah, but that was just something that I saw that they were like, yeah, because of this, a lot of these kind of craziness that went on, they had to come up with new rules and new ways to basically coordinate with each other.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, so not only did the U.S. kind of prove because there was some, and again, I'll get into it a little bit more maybe next minute. There was some obviously I've already covered the intelligence failures. They didn't
Hmm.
have any intelligence on the island. They had no maps. They had to get maps or like tourist maps and make their own. And I think I may have mentioned this too at one point. Like the Marines were using one frequency, and the SEALs or the paratroopers were using another, so they weren't coordinating enough. So one guy had to go out and actually like flag them down with like sticks and shit. Yeah. So I mean, it's like they made it work, but it could have been smoother.
Yeah,
So
well,
a lot.
remove a lot of problems from friendly fire and shit too if they were able to coordinate better.
Yeah, so exactly. So that's where this some positive results came from the clusterfuck nature of some of the ways they were able to coordinate things. So yeah, I just thought it was interesting. So but yeah, so they said 119 killed and 116 wounded.
Hmm.
Well, actually, I'll mention this here too. I saw this thing, and it was Ronald Reagan kind of talking about the invasion post Grenada, or
Hmm.
after it kicked off, basically a couple days after, and he did an address to the nation because I think he was talking about not just Grenada but Lebanon as well because they all happened right around the same time. So he did
Right.
an Oval Office address, and he basically was telling a story of a Marine, and I'll try and find it and post it in the quarter deck so that people can hear it for themselves or at least get more information because unfortunately I don't have it in front of me and I don't have the Marine's name. But long story short, Marine was really badly injured. He was in the hospital, and his commanding general showed up, and Reagan's telling this story about how it basically brought tears to the general's eyes because he's here to greet this injured lance corporal, and the guy and the lance corporal figured out realized somehow, but he couldn't even speak that this was his commanding general, so he wanted some paper and he wrote down Semper Fi.
Oh, right on.
Yeah, it's like here he is, can't even talk. He's laid up in the hospital and he's always faithful. And of course Reagan goes in to kind of describe what always faithful means and why it's so important to the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
That guy could give a speech, yeah. So it was a cool little anecdote that he shared, and it's like yeah, hoorah.
Yeah.
I've never been a big hoorah guy, and he's telling I'm watching this thing. I'm like yeah, hoorah. Good for
Yeah.
that kid.
Yep.
And yeah, and of course like the general was like touched and all that. So
Yeah. That'd be cool, man. I'd like to see that too. Yeah, the Marine Corps, man. It's not like other services. It's closer to a cult or a religion than it is a military service.
yeah, earned never given. So
Yep.
it's just different.
Yep.
Well, on that note, though, I can only be so motivated for so long. So
I know. I hear you getting tired.
yeah, oh yeah,
Sandwich.
yeah, yeah, exactly. I need to replenish with food. Beer and donuts.
Oh God, that sounds good.
Yeah, beer and jelly donuts. Yeah, do you got anything then? Every time I say, "Do you got anything?" I find something else to talk about. So for real,
Oh
I have
no,
nothing.
no. I'm gonna ask you. Do you have anything?
The only thing I got is maybe this was a bad mistake coming here doing this podcast like this.
Yeah, sorry, it's my fault.
Well, don't apologize to me, apologize to the listeners' mothers.
Jesus, Billy.